It's gonna be my ADD tool. We should talk about the Dakar. This is our first thing we're gonna shoot today. There's a lot of things going on with this. To make it more personal for a minute, I'm sorry my energy is very baseline right now. I haven't been as connected to this thing, and then we did the move. We had Colin on it. We had a lot of the plumbing, a lot of the stuff that I think this is repetitive from the last time we watched this or saw this update. He did as much as we could, and now there's a lot of stuff that has to go on with the body, with the wiring, and the sheet metal. So, and the machining. There's a lot. Right now we can look at what I've been working on. We can talk about what I'm going to do next, and then we should probably go over some of the body stuff. I want to show you the wiring that's going to get shipped to Australia, just to look at it. But we can start in here. One of the things you want to think about when you're placing lights in the car, especially if they're functional lights like service lights or rock lights, I don't like to shoot blind with that, because if they're really highlighted, like for instance this pedal assembly, there's a footwell in here that we needed to dress up. I think what I'm going to do is take off all the tin work so you can see what we covered. But what I have is I have like a demo here with a lead, so I can sit here and I can test where the lighting needs to be with a battery, and I can at least know where the focal point of the lighting is just with something in the shop. Because, you know, if the car's not wired for it, then you're just guessing where stuff needs to be. And what was important with this is I wanted that light to be centered with the steering shaft or the steering column. I also wanted it to be on the top dead center of the pedals. Not something where it's backlighting them and pushing their shadows forward. If anything, their shadows can go backwards or towards the front of the car, but not something where it's in front of your feet. So it's showcasing where your feet want to go. This is obviously the driver's side of the car. What we wanted to do here is I needed to make a transitionary sheet metal enclosure that cleaned up all of the guts of what's under the instrument panel, where the brake accumulator is for the electric power brakes. A lot of the hard lines, and it, you know, just needs to feel when this is all upholstered and powder coated, that it's like a, you know, there's not guts showing like where you see the machine part of it. And this is kind of a nice nod to the rest of the sheet metal in here. I think what's going to happen is, you know, you can see that this plate is 3/16 aluminum. This slides with the pedal assembly, so there's 4 inches of throw front to rear. The pedals are just notched for their travel, but they are not actually like long notches where this plate moves with the pedal assembly, so we don't have these huge slots of pedal or huge slots for the pedal. I'm a little rough right now. That's one side. We do need to cover the other side, but what's going to happen is there'll be carpet on the bottom here. That's why this is elevated. So the carpet can fit, and then this can just slide across. This deck for your feet will probably need some kind of a grip in here, and I'm exploring if we want to do some kind of a grid of machine work where we'll mill out on here a design and possibly like the Dakar logo. But something will need a treatment on this, and then this will be powder coated. This will all be carpet. This will be upholstered. So really, carpet will come out of here. It'll be cusped, and it'll be kind of held down by this panel. These will need to be longer just so there's enough of a gap, and then you can see it's consistently gapped all the way down here so it can facilitate the carpet. The order of how these panels need to come out, let me grab this thing. This gives you a better idea of what's going on here. So this car just wants to have a finished look. These are just in here for mock-up right now. You can see the Baja Designs light up there. And the order of arrangements here, I needed to think about service still. So that's why this top one that's got the return on the instrument panel, this comes off first, and it comes off pretty easy. You'd have a threaded area in here, you know, and you'll just pull all the hardware off. You'll pull it off the backside there, and then it opens up the guts to everything that you would need to service. You know, not for full disassembly, but for everything that you'd want to just go up there, check a connection, check the steering column, check the U-joint for the steering, check the brake system, check the hard lines, and you can really get a grasp on where this is in the car from the access panels here. You know, this is all above everything, right? So that's your steering U-joint here. That's your column. I don't know if you can see in there, and then you can see the brake accumulator. You can see the hard lines, and then you can see this false floor. So this might help. But you can see, you know, this is why we have service panels here. Where can I put this? So we can access a lot of this from the exterior of the car. But really, like, the other thing is with this top panel, a lot of the panels that I do, they're pretty ugly on the backside. There's a lot of seams that are welded, and they're never, you know, they're like a one-sided panel. Like if you look on a bunch of this stuff here, that doesn't really come off all the time, you see a lot of the raw construction of it. What I mean by that is it's not fluffed and buffed like the front. It's not sanded with a DA and grained. It's just, it's a very, it tells a story of the process on the back. And what I wanted to with this top panel that comes out, if this has to come out often, or more often than a lot of the other exterior panels, then I wanted to clean it up. So what I did is I made sure all the welds and everything on the backside are all blended too, so it's good on both sides. So if Ryan or someone is working on this car and they have to check something, they pull this panel out and they don't go like, what the fuck, dude? Why does it look like this on the backside? It needs to be clean on both sides, and I think we'll start just implementing that with everything. But you can see under here, this is like our, you know, our first story, or our basement, ground level. Where a lot of the plumbing is. You can see there's a lot of fittings that are waiting for soft lines, and that's the pedal slider under there. So all of this stuff comes out. You know, the only thing that's welded on the car, besides the pivots and the shock mounts and, you know, like the obvious areas, is just the front firewall and some of the bottom floor, and then this whole car comes apart. The body comes off of it. Everything is something you can separate and bolt back together. Other stuff to look at that I think we covered before is the seat slider. That's a 6-inch travel seat slider. It's just sitting in there right now. So that all fits under the seat. We had to make 2 adjustments. This is the taller one. When Ryan came and sat in the car, he wanted to be sitting up more. The thing about this car is when like taller dudes sitting here, they're amazed with the clearance and the headroom. But for Ryan, he specifically likes to sit higher in the car. So this is, you know, there's 2 bracket systems we made. So there's actually 5 more pieces that are the same system here that sit an 1.5 inch lower or 2 inches lower, just in case. Say we're gonna have someone drive the car, like a guest drive the car, and we wanna get their seating perfect, that's where you'd do it. Ryan's the primary driver and client, so, you know, we'd set it to his, and just for backup, if some dude, you know, 6'4", 6'5" guy wants to get in here, he'll have options where we can just swap this stuff out. I mean, it's bolts, but it's not the end of the world. Joey, I'm pretty proud of this thing. There are some areas in here that I didn't necessarily try to get a win with, where this portion draws down and lands down onto the like the horizontal surface. It draws to the same area where the plate does, and I didn't even build it with the plate. You know, sometimes you get wins like that and you don't mean to. Something else I just want to focus on craftsmanship and bringing some of that back is like the fitment here. This car gives us a really good opportunity to try to integrate our motorsports package into the factory package and not overwhelm it. So that's what you kind of see here. There's a lot of this trim is respected and kept, and this isn't, you know, the trim's not on this side, but if you look at the B pillar over there, we have that transition where the trim is meshed right into the tin work, and then that'll all get upholstered. So let's go over and check out the current side over there on the passenger side. So this is an M142. This is one of the 2 computers from Motec that we're going to be running on this car. And there's this black box. This stuff is from PowerTune Australia, and why I have it out is these are just things that have to have mounting provisions in the car. We'll segue into the wiring as soon as I show you the area where we're going to mount this stuff and kind of what my next plan is, and this is something you can count on to see next time. So there's some cues here. This is the same floor that I'm trying to figure out if I have good lighting for you. This is the same floor that the driver's side has. What you'll see here is bracketry that has this thing elevated about 4 inches off the ground floor. So, you know, this straight edge taper bay here is just displaying where the deck height is going to be for your feet. And what that does is that gives us a really palatable amount of real estate to get all the electronics in there, and that's what this is going to be. This passenger footwell is going to be the electronics bay. We'll have all the looms funnel down. You know, they can go. You know, this is our plumbing tunnel that wraps. It goes from here, and it wraps all the way through the rest of the car, through the sill. But the harness will run through some of that, and it'll drop down. Everything's going to waterfall down into here, and then we're going to have a plate, like an electronics plate that's on rubber isolators through here that'll be stood off of the bottom floor, and then this whole thing will be covered. Things that I'm exploring right now is how to bring back the same language as the other side now, because we're pretty invested on what that looks like over there. The other thing that I should probably show you is why there's a big return over there. Let's look at that again. So something else to note is what I'm talking about with the big return is this return edge. If you think about just take an invisible line and you look at the corner of the plastic here where this comes down, and you look at about right here, there was a line here going across, and that's where the dash was. Now that we have this foot box in here, or the pedal box, there was not a lot of room for your toes and your feet to fit under there, and it felt really constrained. So we actually made this adjustment of shape to the instrument panel, and that's what cleaned up our whole footwell and our housing area. So, you know, it's going to be something where this either looks like a very isolated driver side, or we try to get a win where we can apply some of the tin work into the passenger side where they talk to each other. The one thing we can't do is, since we want to have a functional glove box, we need to run the return below this thing no matter what. It's not really going to affect your feet because you're not operating pedals. And there's still quite a bit of foot room down there, even if you wanted to extend your feet or put them in different positions when you're driving on the thing for hours. It always sucks to have a really small footwell when you don't have to, because if you're driving the car for hours and hours, you want to be able to adjust your feet, especially if you're a passenger. So things to look for with this is going to be, you know, this floorboard And then past that is going to be some kind of closeout where we run the tin that's, or not the tin, but we run the molding that's on here, like the ABS, the factory trim. You can hear this gyro on this thing going crazy. And then we have some kind of a kicker that blocks all this stuff off and seals it back up, and it mates to this side panel that's here too. So that covers that. Let's talk about electronics for a second. This, there's a lot more of this, a lot more. This is going to live here. One of the key features with this car that was going to make it what it is the wiring and the electronics. I don't know how much we talked about it before on previous updates, but right now we are in progress of doing that. I'm mounting some of the electronics, and then we're at a point here where we're going to ship off all the harness from the car, and this car is tremendous with wiring. Colin was the one who took it apart, and my direction with him was like, do not damage anything, do not cut anything, do not break a connector or a plug, just get it as good as you can, get all the modules. And so we have everything, and it was literally 2 contractor bags full. PowerTune Australia is who's taking care of this for us, and they are a blessing. The concept with this is Lamborghini engine, separate engine management, twin turbo, multiple flashes and tunes, E85 capability, and then it was going to turn into, there's going to be a lot of that. It's like I have to chew gum to combat the other stuff. Like if I'm like clicking something, then I don't have to hear that. Yeah, see, it's like squirrel. We wanted all the factory Range Rover stuff to work, and that's the trickiest thing is with wiring. A lot of guys are super easy. Do the Motec, put that in there, build a mil-spec harness, do all these plugs, this and that, and that's when you look at it, yes, that is a complicated thing, but it's not what this is. This requires another tier of engineering where you have to have a wiring engineer come in, figure out all the schematics for the Range Rover stuff. And what's going to happen, what to look at here is all of the controls. You know, there's a shifter. I forgot to show you the shifter too. Here, it's just sitting here. This is a big deal though too. This guy is our bracket that goes right where the gear selector for the factory auto is, and this is our 5-speed H pattern setup. So what we'll do is in here, this is already mounted, and it's dead center through the hole where your normal knob is. So what we're going to do is we're going to machine this piece out, and this will have like an H pattern in here, and I'm going to figure out what we can do to get it to be that gated feeling, like a Ferrari or like an old Murcielago or something, where you feel the clicks and the engagement. And we're going to have to do like a secondary portion on this thing where this thing can feed in and click, and you feel that like proper engagement. So anyways, wiring, we wanted all this to work. We didn't want to have any kind of special keypads, didn't want to have a Motec keypad or just nothing like that. A hidden battery selector switch, and then all the infotainment, all the display, all the telemetry on the driver's side, the HVAC, everything work, all the buttons work, turn signals, all the basics. And then now what we're going to do is have this interfaced with Motec. So it's all going to be tricked, and there will be different commands for different things. Like for instance, your cruise control can be set to a 2-step, or a launch control. You can have different mapping in your sport mode. It could be for different mapping for the turbos, so forth and so on. So every button and every selector that it has an option that you can push or turn or do anything with, we have open reign to program that to whatever we want. That's what PowerTune's going to do. So it's it's a blessing to have them. So Ryan flew out from Australia. He came over here, took all the information he needed to. We walked through this whole thing. I really wanted him to get like eyes on this instead of just doing whatever. He was very confident that he didn't even need to see the car, and they were going to build this harness out and bring it over and put it in the car. And I just didn't feel, I needed at least to feel more comfortable with him coming to see it. So we went through our game plan. That's why I know where to put the electronics. He took a lot of measurements, and then he flew back to Australia. We should look at the wiring just so you understand what this looks like to me. This is why working with the right team of people is so important, because the mental real estate of figuring out how this is all going to work with the electronics and everything's going to talk to one another and we're going to find success in that is tremendous. And if you have a company that can feel confident in that, that's amazing. And when I talked to Ryan, same thing. He's like, nothing you've told me has, presented a challenge yet. And it was like everything I've talked about right now. Key fob start, just all of it. So let's go through the wiring. All right. We're building the chassis table right now. This, it's like a thing you don't even want to pull out. That's the wiring. Plus all the modules. Get the modules too. See all those bad boys? So right now what we have is, we had to buy a special shipping crate to go out of the country, which I don't ship stuff out of the country. I have no clue how it works. We were just gonna build something, and then Colin started looking into it. He's like, dude, they require a special type of wood and this and that. So they sell, crates you can just buy. It's all new for us. So this is gonna go in a crate. It should be coming today or tomorrow. And then we ship this down under. Ryan's team lays all the stuff out. They pick and choose what they need. They terminate a ton of it. They make their own harness, mil-spec engine harness. They use all the plugs from the old engine harness. And they literally come back and they have this thing that plugs into our dash that is ready to program, that has Motec in it, that's tailored to the car. It's an incredible feat to me. What I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna start offering this as a service. Exclusively through our company and through us, where if you have a similar job like this, then we're going to start working with PowerTune directly and take care of your cars like this, because this is like the next level to me. Like I said, it's super easy for race cars. Put a Motec display in there, put a keypad in there, cool. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But when you want that extra hit of factory, but you don't want all the garbage factory wiring, this is like the highest level I've came across. Something that's been planned for a while from like the renderings that we haven't started yet is the body. This obviously has like a 10 package on here, but if you tell like from the offset of the rear tires in the front, there's no fenders or overhang that is on the car yet. And so I want to kind of go over the body. We have that being modeled right now. I can show you some of my notes on the wall to get a grasp on what we're doing. Things to expect with the body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 piece body kit. Carbon fiber. I think everything will be hand laid except maybe vacuum on just the inlets through here. And then what we'll do is when the car gets painted, it's got to go through a couple phases. So even before we get the carbon, we're going to 3D print the whole body. It'll be ugly and crusty looking, but it's going to get us the shapes and it's going to get us a one-to-one proof of concept of what the car looks like before we invest in doing the carbon. So finalize the design first. That's what we'll go and talk about. Print all the body panels out. get them bonded onto the car, just temporary mock-up. Look to make adjustments. If we need to make adjustments that are adding material, we can do it with clay and we can build stuff up. If not, we need to sand stuff off. But we can at least get, roll it outside, look at it from a far away position versus up close. That's the other thing with this stuff is when you start making bold moves on the exterior, if you're doing it inside of a building or somewhere where you only get 5 or 10 feet from it, that's not really when you ever see the car unless it's at a show or something. You usually see the car from 100 yards away, or you see it moving fast, or you see it on a highway, and the shapes can look completely different than what your eyes look at when you're standing next to it. So it's extremely important that we get it outside where we can stand back, even 200 yards or something and look at what the lines are doing, what the sun is doing, how it's reflecting, where all the surfaces are going. And so that's our goal right now, is getting it to that. Once we find all that and the carbon goes on, then we're going to use the carbon as a detail and a reveal in a lot of the wheel openings. Some of the areas where we're going to give it a graphic breakout, or a breakup where it's the color and then the carbon is used as like a dark color like the tint or the black would be. So there'll just be multiple hits of that everywhere through the car, and I'll show you with the drawings. So this has kind of been my home base. My computer's missing here, but usually in the same when my office before we moved, same thing. I just put stuff up on the wall so I can visually check in on it while I'm designing other things. I got, a lot of that is from Art Center, putting our stuff up on the wall for a presentation. And that lets me get an overview of it instead of having two screens where I'm just looking at one screen next to me while I'm drawing something. I can look over and I can understand the language through everything. A lot of these are details. And so what I mean by that is Illumisthetic is doing all of our body. They are doing the modeling on it. We started with the rendering model, and then they go through and they took a scan. Everything's been 3D scanned, so you can see there's a lot of detail in there of the car, the real physical car. And then they took the model and they overlaid it. And then they start checking things like compression, lock to lock in the front at compression, and making sure everything is going to clear and cycle. Once they get that in there, then I have to make revisions on things that I notice, things that need to be more cohesive with the actual car, or just details in general that when you start modeling that in there, they just don't look right and you have to adjust them. We have one shot at this, so it's important that we spend the time to make everything right. So all of these are revisions, design cues, and notes that go back and forth with them on WhatsApp, and then they send that to their surfacers. They make the adjustments, and we keep going till it's done. So we are very close. The hood was a big thing that we just had to design from scratch, so I designed all that. The rear scoop, putting the grill into the rear scoop, that's all new design. The blisters with the wastegates, that's all new design. Like I said, the hood with the twin blade that comes off, those will be pieces on there that are different, parts from just the main hood. The hood is still a 3-piece thing, so it's side fenders, open the hood like normal traditional, hinge on the rear. The splitter below the tube is its own thing. And then what's gonna happen now is there's so much runoff. If you look at this from where the corner is to where the outside of the fender is, this is like this crazy slot that even if you were to clean it, your hand would go 6 or 7 inches down into that thing. So what we're doing now is we're running design where this can be an opening, like a gill, very similar to the rear fender opening. But you can see like that's a revision, right? So then I look at that and then we start working on this stuff and how that's gonna flow. Something else, the steering wheel is being printed. We should get that any day with the wheelie camera in there. So that's finaled. That took way too long. That had to go from 2 different designers. It was a learning lesson, but it is what it is. It's done now. The other thing, that's for Boost Logic. Boost Logic is doing our billet intake. The billet intake is a functional thing that's a necessity for our application. The plastic or the polycarbonate intakes that they produce fail, they crack, and if the parts from that get sucked into the turbo system, it's Obviously not a good thing. So what they're going to do for us is they're going to machine top caps on their intake, because we don't want to lose the essence of it being a Lamborghini V10. I think I've stated it before. Same deal. If you have a Lamborghini, say a Huracan, and you get a billet intake for it, it's a cool thing. But you already are walking up and approaching that car knowing that it's a Lamborghini. When you put a Lamborghini engine into a foreign vehicle or some different vehicle that's not a Lamborghini, you want to open that thing up, and you know the way it tells you is because of the intake manifold. It has that crinkle finish with the Lamborghini that's raised. So what Boost Logic's going to do is we're going to get that same performance out of their billet intake, but they're going to machine custom caps for us. So that's the design work for them, so they can translate that into their part. So this is what I love to do. It's my favorite thing, is designing stuff. Building stuff with my hands is just an acquired skill. I'm grateful I can do it, but I find extreme value in life with designing stuff, whether that's designing stuff for other people or designing stuff for this project. So the way I like to operate and the speed I like to operate is by drawing and sketching, moving on to the next one, drawing and sketching, and just visual communication over and over. This is like the thing, right, at SEMA. People were like, why would you ever bring a car with the steering wheel airbag blown out? You know, and it's because we were developing this piece. This is a 3D printed piece. Josh Frey helped me design this. Originally Joe did, and they just had to change direction because I think that it was pretty complex, and just the timeline and stuff, it just wasn't a good fit. So Josh finalized this thing out for me. These are test hits. These will be machined aluminum parts, right? So that's my signature in there. That's going to go on here. This whole thing is gapped accordingly for upholstery, Alcantara. So, you know, there'll be some fitment stuff to look at, but this is all 3D. There's a Motec screen that goes in here. And then there's this little accent piece, this blade. The divot in the middle here, where that contour changes, is so the Motec, when the screen's in there, the reading, the branding for Motec is right centered there. And then this whole portion, you know, be like this, but think upholstery, billet aluminum, tink, tink, and then this goes in the car. There's several machine parts and like billet silver finish parts that are actually metal. Same with the door handles and stuff. That's why I wanted to incorporate, like, even you see this lower portion, there's material breakup, meaning that there's two different materials next to each other, which breaks up the design and the shape. Same thing for the leather versus the aluminum there. So this will go in and it snaps into all the factory settings. Oh, it already looks so good. It's the first time. And then the trinket, don't move. The top trinket will just be a little nudge to the signature. It's the same signature on the door. That's just how I sign things. That goes here. This blade will go under and it'll complement right at the buttons there, and it'll live here like that. The Motec display there. So we did earlier, we talked about, or wherever Joey chops this into the episode, we talked about running the telemetry on the wiring. The other thing to note on that, so you know, with Range Rover, all that stuff that it says on there is going to be, the Motec is going to be telling it actual telemetry. So like oil pressure and everything, we can scan through it, and we can map through all of the screen, and it'll be tied into our readings for the Lamborghini engine. What that'll have is that'll have a Motec display. There'll be a camera down here, right at the angle of departure there, where when it wheelies, that display will come on, and it'll give you, you know, you got to think when the car comes up, like your head already still wants to stay in position. So the car comes up, the wheels come up, and your cone of vision goes right to the center of the steering wheel. And instead of just shooting blind in a wheelie and staying in it, you're able to see the front of the car, and that camera is pointed down, so when the car's up, the camera line of sight is directly the line of sight of where you're looking. So it's a safety thing when you want to stay in it and you want to get some, whether that's on the drags or emerging onto a highway in Mexico or something, that you're able to see if cars are coming or something's coming across. So really exciting to get that done. That's going to really clean that up. It already looks finished even with the 3D printing like that. And Josh, I can't thank you enough for finishing this. We've been drawing this and I've been sketching this thing. That's like the Antichrist, that thing, man. We've been doing that for a long time, so that's done. Really excited about it. Just a lot of information in this one. I think it'll be nice to, if you can make it through this, then you'll be able to see the steps that happen next with every angle on this, because a lot of stuff is like in progress. This is a adjustment I made to the window line. You can see there's something really steady that has tension that comes to the rear of the car, but there's a hiccup here that happens where this quarter window draws down and then it runs parallel again, or it has a whole nother different profile. So there's going to be a large scoop that goes here, and it made sense that we don't have that interruption because the surface of the scoop is going to come out and it's going to be dramatic. It'll probably have 4 inches of pull coming off the top here, and then it'll fall and it'll gain size out here. So this might turn into like a 6-inch opening for a scoop. The scoop is not for aesthetics. It's for functionality for the filter element that's going to be feeding the turbos. So in this area, I'm going to want to cut this, into a way where there's a small return to mount what we have, but it opens up our real estate. And then what's going to happen is this is going to be a 3D printed portion that has a filter element. This is a K&N sponsored car, so K&N's going to come in here with their engineering team. They're going to look at what they can fit in here and what the demands are for the engine and the turbos. And then they're going to develop a filter that can fit in here to our shape, like a prototype filter. That'll just be like a normal OEM style filter instead of a cone. It'll be this flat element that you take clips out for easy service, and you either swap it out or you blow it out or whatever you need to do, and you put it back in. So this whole thing will be a feature for the filter. There'll be a grill here that replicates what the front grill is, like the OEM, but from the back, I think you're going to be able to come in here and you're going to be able to get your arm in and undo the clips, or we have to make this whole thing where it comes off easy. This scoop will also integrate the wastegate. That's something that we have on the drawings there. And then the next thing to think about is the body is going to have somewhere around a 13-inch flare per side, meaning it'll be 13 inches wider than what the body offers for the overhang for the wheels out towards the tire. With that, a lot of this door is going to go away. There's a really dramatic opening here that's venting that'll give like a great detail to see the shocks, but it also helps for airflow. But that's going to come off of this door and it's going to be bonded on here pretty large. And with that, we don't want to touch this yet because a lot of this will get detailed out. We're going to use the factory trim will run on portions of this just to integrate it into the front. And then this will all be like a storage container in here, but I really need to figure out what the body wants before we move forward with any of this. So if anything, I'm going to leave this. And then once we get that printed portion, of the quarter fender on here where this thing's drawn out, super big, super huge big, then I'll be able to know what I can remove from this thing. So I think that really closes out where we're at. The other thing is the trailing arms in the rear. They are huge 3-piece chunks of billet, close to 40 inches by 20, all modular, all keywayed together, beautiful things. So Josh Frey and I spent 50 plus hours each designing these things. They're amazing, and they're going to be a huge highlight on the back of the car. They're going to match all the suspension in the front, and they'll just tie this thing together. Did we need to do that? Yes, we did, because we upgraded the hubs in the rear, so now there's a 6-piston, and there's outboard hubs. So it needed to happen, and we just needed to also keep up with what's going on in the front. So that's kind of our update, just a lot of stuff going on at the same time. I'm set up in here with my computer instead of in the office in the house, because that's kind of a one-to-one. If I need to make adjustments with the design team for the body, then I go over there, I make the adjustments, I go back to work.